Imagine standing in the dark, looking into a mirror and watching your own teeth glow. A century ago, a miraculous glowing dust was sold to the world as the ultimate elixir of life. People drank it every day. Young women painted it on their lips and faces to shine at night, until their bones began to crumble inside their bodies and their jaws literally fell apart. How did a beautiful, glowing scientific miracle become one of the most horrifying and agonizing killers in history? In the early 1920s, working in a dial painting factory was considered a glamorous job. Young women in their teens and 20s were hired to paint the numbers on watches so they would glow in the dark. To get a sharp point on their brushes, their managers told them to use a simple technique: lip, dip, paint. They were instructed to place the tip of the brush between their lips, dip it into the glowing green radium paint and apply it to the watch. They tasted the dust every single day, but no one was afraid. In fact, they loved it. The women thought the glowing dust was magic. When the managers weren't looking, the girls would paint their nails with it. They sprinkled it in their hair so they would sparkle at dance halls. They painted their teeth to surprise their boyfriends in the dark. They became known as the Ghost Girls because when they walked home at night, their dresses literally glowed. But deep inside their bodies, a terrifying biological mistake was happening. The human body cannot tell the difference between radium and calcium. So when the women swallowed the glowing dust, their body sent it straight into their bones. The nightmare started with a simple toothache. In 1922, a 24-year-old dial painter named Molly Maggia went to the dentist for a hurting tooth. The dentist pulled it out, but the hole didn't heal. It grew. Soon, the tooth next to it had to be removed, and then another. Her gums turned black. Months later, Molly went back to the doctor. When he gently touched her jawbone to examine the damage, the bone simply broke beneath his fingers. He didn't use any surgical tools. He reached into her mouth and pulled her entire lower jaw. The radium had eaten it completely alive. Molly died a slow, agonizing death shortly after. But she wasn't the only one. Hundreds of girls began to fall apart. Their spines collapsed. Their legs shattered just from walking. The glowing dust they loved was burning holes completely through their skeletons. To this day, if you stand over the graves of the Radium Girls with a Geiger counter, the machine will scream. They are still glowing under the dirt. But the horror of this element wasn't just trapped inside factories. While the young women were dying, the richest people in the world were drinking the exact same poison on purpose. This brings us to the story of Eben Byers. Eben was a wealthy, handsome American industrialist and a champion golfer. In 1927, he injured his arm on a train. To help with the pain, his doctor prescribed him a brand new miracle medicine called Radioactive. Radioactive was nothing but pure, distilled water mixed with highly radioactive radium. When Eben drank his first bottle, he felt incredible. He claimed it gave him limitless energy. He felt so powerful, so alive that he became addicted. He started drinking up to 3 bottles of radium water every single day. Over the next 3 years, he consumed more than 1,400 bottles of the glowing water. He sent cases of it to his business partners. He fed it to his racehorses. But the energy he felt was a tragic illusion. It was just his body going into extreme shock before total collapse. By 1930, the glowing water finally demanded its price. Eben Byers began to lose weight. His head ached constantly. Then his teeth started falling out. When doctors finally examined him, they were horrified. The radium had drilled holes straight through his skull. His brain was exposed. Almost his entire upper jaw had dissolved away. But because radium doesn't kill you quickly, Eben was completely conscious while his skeleton crumbled inside him. When he finally died in 1932, a famous newspaper printed a chilling headline: "The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off." His body was so highly radioactive that he couldn't be buried in a normal wooden casket. He was placed inside a thick, lead-lined coffin just to protect the soil from his corpse. How could the brightest scientific discovery of its time blind the world so completely? To understand how this deadly obsession began, we have to go back to the moment it was pulled from the earth. The story of this beautiful killer begins in a freezing, leaky shed in Paris. In 1898, for centuries, ancient alchemists had been searching for the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance that could cure any disease and grant eternal life. Humanity had always dreamed of a magic elixir. When a brilliant scientist named Marie Curie and her husband Pierre began boiling thousands of pounds of heavy black dirt called pitchblende, they had no idea they were about to give the world exactly what it had been wishing for. Or so they thought. After months of exhausting, back-breaking labor boiling the dirt in massive iron pots, they finally isolated a tiny amount of a brand new element. One night, Marie and Pierre walked into their pitch-black laboratory. They froze in their tracks. Resting on the tables, the glass test tubes were glowing with an eerie, beautiful blue-green light. It looked like magic. It looked alive. They named it radium, from the Latin word for ray. Marie was mesmerized. She called it, "my beautiful radium." She loved it so much that she kept a glowing vial of it right next to her bed to use as a nightlight. When scientists realized that this strange new metal produced its own heat and light, seemingly out of nowhere, they thought they had discovered a miracle. They believed the energy shooting out of the radium was pure life force. And so, the world went completely insane. In the early 1900s, radium became a global obsession. Because people believed it transferred its endless energy to the human body, companies began putting it into absolutely everything. They made radium toothpaste to make your smile shine. They sold radium-laced chocolate bars. They manufactured radium butter, radium face creams to remove wrinkles, and even radium condoms. People bought ceramic water jugs lined with radium or filling them with tap water so their families could drink liquid radiation with dinner. People were literally bathing in it, completely unaware that they were soaking in a microscopic rain of atomic bullets. Here is how terrifyingly powerful this element truly is. Radium is over 1 million times more radioactive than uranium. Just one single gram of it undergoes tens of billions of atomic explosions every single second. Marie Curie was so fascinated by this invisible power that he deliberately taped a piece of radium to his bare arm for 10 hours just to watch his own flesh burn and die. He proudly showed off his rotting wound at dinner parties. But this element doesn't just harm you in the moment. It leaves a ghost behind. To this day, over a century later, Marie Curie's personal notebooks are highly dangerous. They are kept in a heavily guarded library in France, locked inside boxes made of solid lead. If you want to read her handwritten notes, you cannot just walk in. You have to sign a liability waiver, and you must wear a full, radiation-proof hazmat suit. Marie gave the world its glowing miracle, but the miracle betrayed her. She died of a rare blood disease, her bone marrow completely destroyed by the very element she called beautiful. This glowing dust didn't just break jaws and burn skin. It quietly shattered the illusion that humanity could control nature, which earned this element a very specific and terrifying reputation. Because of this terrifying paradox, a substance that the world used to heal and illuminate, which ultimately destroyed everything it touched, this metal has earned a haunting identity in the shadows of science. It is known as the element that glows with death. And the reason for this dark title is as psychological as it is physical. Think about traditional poisons like cyanide or arsenic. They are fast. They are brutal. They taste bitter and they kill you quickly. But radium was beautiful. It was the ultimate deceiver. Even after the horrors of the factory girls and the rich industrialists, the world still needed radium. We used it to paint the instrument dials in World War II bomber planes so pilots could fly through the pitch-black night. We used it inside hollow gold needles, plunging the glowing metal directly into the human body to burn away cancerous tumors. It was a tool that quite literally brought light into the dark and fought our deadliest diseases. But the tragedy of radium is that it never stops working. It earned the title of the element that glows with death because it doesn't just kill you, it tricks you and then it replaces you. When radium enters your body, it wears a disguise. It perfectly mimics calcium, the mineral that builds your teeth and skeleton. Your own body is fooled. Actively welcomes the assassin in, locking the glowing dust deep inside your bones, thinking it is making you stronger. But once the doors are locked, the trap is sprung. For decades, the radium just sits inside your living tissue. In absolute silence, it fires thousands of microscopic atomic bullets into your cells every single minute. It literally cooks you from the inside out. You don't feel it. You don't hear it. You don't know you are dying until your bones turn to glass and shatter beneath your own weight. It is a serial killer that wears the mask of a miracle, and its victims are left glowing in the dark, long after their hearts have stopped beating. The tragic story of radium is a warning whispered to us from the past, forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. If humanity could look at a glowing, invisible fire that destroyed bones and burned skin and choose to spread it on our faces and drink it from our glasses, what miracles are we blindly trusting today? We often believe that science brings us out of the darkness, but sometimes when we finally find a light in the dark, that light is just the burning edge of a far deadlier shadow. The ghost girls in the factories. the millionaire whose jaw shattered, the brilliant scientist whose notebooks still burn with invisible fire. They all chased a miracle, and they all found a monster. If you found yourself captivated by the dark and beautiful secrets hidden in our world, leave a like on this video. And if you want to uncover the true stories of the bizarre, the mysterious, and the downright terrifying forces that surround us, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the universe is full of secrets, and some of them are glowing right in front of us. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the shadows of the next story.